Welcome back to another episode of What Are You Made Of with your boy, the unstoppable Mike C-Roc. I'm right here in the house today with a friend of mine that I met at Dr. Greg Reed's event called Secret Knock. Now, not everybody's allowed in Secret Knock. You have to be invited, but we get to meet some great people at these events. And shout out to Greg Reed for having that in the first place. But my guest today is Dr. Mak Jawadekar. Did I pronounce that right, doctor?
Yeah, you got it.
All right, all right. And Dr. Mak received his Ph.D. in pharmaceutics at the University of Minnesota. He worked for Pfizer Global R D for over 28 years and contributed to Zoloft, Zithromax, and many other blockbusters in R&D. He now serves on many advisory roles, including one with Tonino Lamborghini. So, Dr. Mak, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, C-Roc.
So we have a lot to talk about today. So let's get right into it. The first question I always ask every guest that comes on is, what are you made of, Dr. Mak?
Yeah, I think, I believe in hard work and then I believe in having some goals in life. And once you have the goals in life set, I think you work towards those goals to achieve those goals and maybe exceed those goals if possible. But I think there is no alternative to hard work. I think people think, oh, now I can make easy money or I can do easy work and you'll get the rewards. But in reality, in my opinion, I mean, this is my personal opinion, that I think if you do hard work, you get lucky. I mean, that's my theorem, and the way I see different people do it, there are n number of ways of being successful, and there are probably n+1 paths to get there to become successful. But I think the key to that is, having your hard work there and getting to the point where, you set some goals up and say you want to achieve those. And I think that's what makes you, pick. And I think that's what I'm made of.
Well, I love it. And let me ask you a question. Throughout your career and your life, have you noticed times where you were working hard, but there was times when everything seemed harder than they had to be? And then other times where you were working hard, but it didn't feel as hard and you were accomplishing more. And what do you think the reason was, if that's the case for you?
Yeah. So yes, there are instances, where you set the goals. And again, when I set the goals, what I mean here is, these are short-term goals, short-term in the sense, in the next 2 to 3 years, I would like to be this, doing this, achieving that, and then you work hard towards that. But sometimes there are some external factors which play a role in you not being able to achieve those goals in the time frame that you have set up. So what you need to do in that case is either extend your timelines and reset the goals, or move on to another goal which is achievable in the time frame that you have. So there are means to doing it. And I think the most important thing in that is never, ever give up, because giving up means, you are going down. And I think once you are in that spiral of going down, I think it is hard to then come up to a level where, your hard work is going to achieve those fruits of labor. So in my opinion, I think there are instances where that happens, but I think as long as you remain patient, as long as you do the best you can, I mean, that's the key. Do the best you can, your best ability. Nobody is going to do anything to hasten that or accelerate that, but I think it's up to you to do that right. And once you do that right, I think things happen and you see the fruits.
So take us back to when you were a kid. Did you ever envision being in the position you are now and to achieve what you've achieved now as a kid? Because
I always, I had my uncle as my hero, and my uncle, when I was growing up, when I was 12 years old, I remember 7th grade, and I was growing up in India, and my father said, hey, if you work hard and if you study hard, I mean, not work. If you study hard, you will do well in school. And if you do well in school, there is a chance that you will do well in your life. However, the vice versa fact is, if you don't study well, if you flunk in your school, and if you don't get the job of your life, and if you fail in that, I think the life is full of failure. So that's what my father had told me. And then he said, look at your uncle. He went to France at the age of 24 and got his doctorate from University of Paris in pharmaceutics. And he said, take that example and do something like him. I said, okay. I mean, I was really excited to hear that. And I said, at least, there is a role model that I can follow and do the best I can. So that's how it all began.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. And so growing up, what was the biggest thing? Like, if you go back and look at your life, what was the biggest catalyst moment that could have been considered a setback, or at the moment, right? Or discouragement, or somebody let you down, you let yourself down, whatever that is, but you were able to convert it into fuel to advance further. What was that catalytic moment for you?
Okay, the catalytic moment was, once I got my, master's there, and then, I said, I don't know, whether I should be now, working and doing it for the rest of my life in some kind of, job which gives you enough to stay on or to live on. But I think I wanted to do something beyond, and that was the moment. My friend that time, my friend in the sense he was my classmate, and he said, because you already have the master's degree in pharmacy, United States is opening up, their labor department has opened up the category called preferred category for green cards, and he said, why don't you apply? And I said, I'm not sure whether I want to go abroad at this minute, because I was only 20 something. And then I said, I'm not sure. But he said, you got nothing to lose. So why don't you just apply for that? And I did apply because he said so. And I said, okay. And then within 3 months, I got a letter from the US the immigration department saying you have been approved for green card. And as soon as you come to the US, you'll get green card in New York, and you can either work or go to further studies. And I said, oh my God, I didn't know this option was there. And when that option opened up, I said, this is like what my uncle did. Why not take the step and go? So I just said, I'm going to take, I didn't know anybody in this country. I was totally coming on my own. And at that early age in the 20s, it was like, jumping in the ocean with no end in sight, in the sense of you don't know where you're going to land up. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it because you said so. That's my colleague and my classmate. And so I said, hey, why don't we both go at the same time? So we both, September 4th, 1976, we landed in New York, both of us. And that's where the journey began.
And a few short months later, I was born, 1977.
Oh my God. Wow.
February 1977. So, so Dr. Mak, what was the first moment where you realized that once you got to America that, wow, man, I'm onto something here and I have some momentum and I could be really super successful here? What was that moment?
Yeah. So the moment was, I considered that I was getting lucky everything what I touched, and I'm just giving you a couple of examples of that. When I landed in New York, then obviously I had the admission from University of Minnesota. So I said I'm going to go there, and then I didn't know anybody there. So I wrote to that time there was no phones or anything. So I wrote to them in a letter from New York saying I'm coming on this day. How do I come to the campus? How do I look for a place to stay and all that? So I got the letter back from them saying, hey, there is a guy named Bud Grant who is going to pick you up at the airport. He's your host family and he will take you to his home. And I said, Bud Grant? I had no idea who Bud Grant was. I said, okay. So some family in Minneapolis, and I don't know whether you know Bud Grant, but he was the coach of Minnesota Vikings that time, and he and his wife, they both came to the airport, picked me up, and took me to their home, and there I stayed for the first month in Minneapolis.
Wow. Did you really know about American football back then?
No. So I asked him on our ride to his home after he picked me up, saying, what do you do? And he said, "Oh, I'm a coach." I said, "Coach for what?" He said, "Football." Oh, so I said, "Okay, I play football too." I told him that because it was a soccer. I didn't know the word soccer that time, but I said, "I play football." So he said, "Okay, so I'll take you to the field and you come and show your skills." I said, "Okay, we can go." So the next day he took me and I said, "Oh, that's not the football that I know." So he showed me, the American football, and I said I had no idea what that is. But then I said, he might be a coach at a high school or something. So I had no idea what Vikings were.
Yeah.
I thought it was a high school team, and he was coaching them. So, and then the next day happens, and I see him on big screen TV, and I said, "What's going on here? You are on TV?" I said, "Is this real?" And then I realized that this was a national football league, and he was the coach for the entire Minnesota team, and he was revered by lots of people in Minneapolis and beyond. And I just said, "Oh my God, I got lucky here." So
did that open up doors for you?
that opened up quite a few doors because that time, and I forgot to mention another fact here. Before I started my journey from from India to Minneapolis. In India, Lillian Carter was there on a some kind of missionary work, or actually Peace Corps, not missionary, Peace Corps work in Mumbai, and she was working with a company called Godrej for Peace Corps, and so Godrej is a big industrialist. He invited me and he said, "I'm giving you scholarship for going to America." I said, "Great." I mean, I didn't have that much money to even fly abroad, but he gave me scholarship for that. And then he said, "Let me introduce you to Lillian, who is here with us." And he introduced me to Lillian, and Lillian said, "Go to America. Once you go to America, contact my son who lives in Plains, Georgia. This is his address. Write to him." So I came back and I wrote to Jimmy. I said, "Jimmy, I'm in America. Your mother told me to write to you, so I'm writing it to you." So, and he said, and then I see on TV, he was running that time against Ford. I mean, for the presidency. I said, "Oh my God, that was a surprise." I said, "Anybody I meet, they are on TV here. What's happening?"
No. So did you ever watch the movie Forrest Gump?
Yes, I did.
So you know how he was running into all these people like that? It's kind of like that, it sounds like.
Exactly. And so when I saw that, I wrote to Jimmy and I said, "I'm here." So he said, and then after he got elected, Lillian was there in the White House. So she wrote to me, "I'm going to be here for a month." This is in 77. The month of April, she wrote to me, and I had the address because I had communicated with her. So I said, I'm here now in Minneapolis. This is where I live. I'm doing studies." He said, "Oh, Jimmy would love to meet you. Why don't you come to the White House?" I said, "Okay, I'll come there."
Wow.
So that journey happened in 77. It was probably April, May timeframe. So
now, do you think that that's just by chance, or do you think that do you really think that you manifest these opportunities, like individuals manifest these opportunities? It's not really.
I never manifested happening anything like this. It was almost like falling on my lap, and I just said, "Wow!" I had no idea. And when I opened the letter, I still have that letter from Lillian Carter, saying, "You come to the White House and we will welcome you." I still have that from 1977.
Wow.
April 1977 letter. And so those memories stay with you, and then things happen, and then you kind of say, "Oh my God, this, how did that happen?" So that's how things happen. So
wow, man. So then you get in with Pfizer and you start working on some medication to help people.
Before we go to Pfizer, let me give you another little incident in Minneapolis.
Sure.
In 78, they were on campus. They were filming a movie. Columbia Pictures, Arnold Coppelson was filming a movie called Fooling Around, and our friend Gary Busey was there, and he was in the movie. And there I was walking to the campus, going to my school, and there this director Arnold Coppelson said, "Hey, you, I want you here." I want you to come here and meet us. I said, okay, what are you doing? I said, he said, oh, we are filming a movie. I said, is this a real movie or is this a documentary? He said, no, this is Columbia Pictures, big time movie. And so he introduced me to Gary Busey, Annette O'Toole, Cloris Lichman, Tony Randall. They were all there. And they said, meet all these people. You probably have heard about them. I said, yeah, I know Tony Randall. I've seen him on some TV shows. I said, oh my God,
Oh man, that's phenomenal. Because I remember when we were at Secret Knock, and I was acting as an honorary bodyguard for Gary Busey, and I remember because he's like, stay by my side, and I'm like, hey, what a story that is, right? So then I remember you coming over and showing the picture. And it was you in the picture. I remember that.
Yeah, and Gary remembered that. Gary said, oh yeah, I remembered you because you came in a turban, and then we chatted, and then they came to my home in Minneapolis. All the people, Annette O'Toole came, Curtis Lichman came, and Tony Randall. They came to my home in Minneapolis on campus, and we had beer together, and then they
unbelievable
their parties. So it was fun. This is going back in '78, and the movie
unbelievable. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I remember that moment. Do you remember me standing there when you were showing him?
Oh yeah.
Because I saw the picture.
I still have the picture.
Oh, that's so awesome, man. So then, this is just like the Forrest Gump movie. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. Not that you're Forrest Gump or anything by any means.
No, but I think you are absolutely right. Yeah. Things just fall on my lap, and I just said, oh my God, see what happens,
Yeah, I love it, man. So then in the Pfizer, I want to ask some questions about this because I'm curious. I'm a curious kind of guy. So when you get into pharmaceutics, and are you doing experiments with different chemicals to see what would work? And then how do you first test something on a subject?
Yeah, so it's a long process, and it's a teamwork, and it's not just one person's contribution. So there are multiple people involved in the discovery phase, and discovery phase goes almost 3 years long. And within the discovery phase, you want to make sure the drug you are working on are drugs, actually. You are multiple drugs you are working on have the capability to target certain elements in your body. And once you target those drugs to those, I would call therapeutic areas, or I would say even disease areas, you want to make sure that, there is some kind of pharmacological reaction to that, which allows body to heal. And that's the whole idea, right? So when the drugs were coming through the pipeline, there was this drug, Zoloft, which in discovery looked really good. We called it sertraline hydrochloride as its generic name. So sertraline came to my bench, when I was working at the bench, and they said, we will need a formulation for this, which will really dissolve immediately, and also it will have good characteristics in terms of its physicochemical characteristics, stability, and other stuff that you require for a drug product to be commercially viable. So it has to be manufacturable, it has to have the right cost of goods, it has got to have the right characteristics for compression and whatnot. So all those things we had to weigh in and then create a game plan to create a formulation. And it took almost 6 months to come up with a formulation which was robust and which worked in a scale that Pfizer wanted to work it at, because it was going to be a big product, and we wanted to make billion tablets almost in a month, and we had to do the scale-ups and all that.
And to stay below a threshold for side effects, correct?
Well, that happens in phase 1, phase 2 studies, in the clinical studies. So phase 1 is essentially safety and dose ranging, and then phase 2, you kind of know that it has got the proof of concept done. So that is the phase 2A, and phase 2B, you test it in more healthy volunteers and subjects, and then phase 3 is all in the population where the people are actually have the disease. So it's not the healthy volunteers anymore. Healthy volunteers are only in phase 1 and phase 2A.
So who are those crazy healthy volunteers? Like who are the people that like are the first ones to take a chemical?
No, because it's not very dangerous because the dose ranging is a long study. It doesn't animal studies happen before that. So based upon that, you calculate the dose that a human can take and is tolerable and has no real side effects and all that. So those are measured in the animal work, but then once it can come into phase 1 studies, they make sure the dose is real minimal. It's not going to cause any undue side effects, and then they look at every little bit and make sure that the blood pressure is in the range and your HbA1c is in the range. So there are lots of biomarkers that are looked at during the phase 1, phase 2.
And when you're working for a company like Pfizer, is the ethics like do they talk about ethics a lot? Is that a topic that comes up? For example, covering up a problem rather than fixing a problem versus maybe using something non-pharmaceutical to correct the problem or help with the problem first. Like, do they ever talk about that kind of stuff? And like, where's the line drawn when it comes to capitalism and finances?
No,
Like
I
that.
mean, I think the thing they look at, I mean, they in the sense pharma companies look at is, are you best in class or first in class? So in other words, if there are other drugs like Prozac was already a drug on the market that time, and that had some heavy duty, side effects of suicidal tendencies and all that. So Prozac was on the cover of Time magazine and all that. So when that happened, Pfizer was looking for an antidepressant which had none of that side effect like Prozac had. So then you become best in class. You are not first in class because there are already drugs on the market
Mhm.
with that kind of profile. But then you want to become best in class because you have none of those bad side effects. And then that's how the drug becomes the first therapy of choice for those indications. So
Okay. And so is that a conversation that comes up though, not just for that part, the side effects, but what about maybe other non-pharmaceutical therapies? Do they invest in that part as well? You follow me? Like, for example, if there's something that could possibly be cured through some kind of processes or therapy or diet or what's the word I'm looking for? Is it uh, when drugs aren't used, it's the healing of they use diet. What's the word I'm looking for?
are you saying natural therapies or
Yeah, natural. But what is it called when it starts with an H? I think homeopathic. Is it or is it?
Homeopathic is a different. That's a different branch of medicine, which is a German homeopathy, which has drugs in it. So it's not.
Oh, okay. Okay. So,
Yeah.
but do they invest in that stuff to look at other options that could possibly work besides using pharmaceuticals, or do they just because that's always one runs through my mind. Like, is there a better way rather than using drugs? But again,
No.
the other thing with drugs, I look at it just the same as guns or anything else or food, that it's the person taking the drug, it's the person that takes the gun and uses it that's responsible for using it responsibly, right? I understand that, but I'm just always looking at like what are other alternatives, and I didn't know how their view on that is.
Yeah. No, I mean, alternative things are not considered by big pharma companies because their goal is to have allopathic means of providing therapies, which will essentially be having static effect or cure effect, and for Alzheimer's, there is no cure effect right now. It's all static, right? So to answer your question, the answer is no. I don't think pharma companies look for any natural ways to cure that particular disease area or therapeutic area. I think they are into looking for something which is patented, unique, and having the least side effects. I mean, you cannot say no side effect. There is always 1 to 2%
Yeah.
have some nausea and all those headaches and those side effects. But I think you are looking at a big picture saying, hey, if the person is depressed, you want to have that person, feel good or have no tendency to, do some negative things on himself or herself. So I think with those in mind, I think all the protocols, clinical protocols in phase 3 handle those questions. And then there are some, therapies. They also look at concomitant therapies where some people may have diabetes. So if they are on insulin or some anti-diabetics, oral anti-diabetics, is there an interaction between those drugs and this? So those are looked at in phase 3. But to answer your question, I don't think companies go and say, hey, is there a natural way of curing this drug?
Okay. And now we're March 10th, 2022, as we record this podcast interview. And let's talk about the COVID pandemic. And as we were getting ready to hit record, when you started talking about, you think that we possibly were going into the endemic now. But what are your thoughts of where we've been through this whole pandemic? And why do you think that it's gotten to the point now where we're in the endemic?
Yeah, so I think, it's probably about 2 years ago. I think we may be short two weeks, but that's when the pandemic really began, of 2020. March 23rd or something like that was the date when everything kind of shut down. And there were, obviously no drugs that time, and there were no therapies of any kind. So the task force was put out and all that stuff you already know. And we went through, that Delta is the cause of what happened. People had to go to the hospitals and respirators and
oh, by the way, when that happened in March, did you get a phone call? Like, did they call you back in?
Well, I mean, not that time, but it happened sometime in May. That Pfizer was heavily looking into working with this German company BioNTech, and while I was at Pfizer, we had started some work with them, working on some oncology type mRNA therapies. So actually Pfizer called them, and then they responded saying, yeah, we were thinking the same thing, that maybe we should be able to produce a vaccine using the mRNA technology, but we don't know how long it will take. Your guess is as good as our guess. So yeah, I mean, that was when Pfizer went all the way and said, let's make a big time contract, and then I started working, obviously, from outside, and in fact my cousin worked at BioNTech in Germany, and so things happened, and then it took, again, it took 6 to 9 months of clinical studies to even look at what dose may be even given, which will be safe enough. So lots of work has gone into that, and I think Pfizer CEO just published his book just a week ago. Moonshot is the book, and I think,
is that what it's called? Moonshot? We talk about moonshots all the time.
Yeah. So Moonshot is the book written by the current CEO of Pfizer, who has been Albert Bourla, and he wrote the book and published it, and he has written every account of how did this whole thing take place, and how Pfizer got involved, and how Pfizer became the first company to launch this vaccine, and there were so many other companies in play, including Moderna and some others. But I think Pfizer won the race because of the amount of money of their own money Pfizer spent in developing this. They didn't take any government money for development. They essentially said, we are going to, at risk, produce, heavy doses of this, and then hopefully it will be useful. If not, we'll have to throw those out, but at least, at risk, we are going to be able to come to the rescue. So that's what Pfizer said. And as you know, it was amazing race. And then that time I remember, talking to some government folks, and then finally coming up with, in the month of December, as it was in the phase 3, and then finally they gave the EUA, emergency use authorization, for the usage of the vaccine, so that we could really go out and do this. And that was amazing. It was the FDA's biggest risk that they took, and obviously, Pfizer wanted to make sure that there was all the bells and whistles were put in place, so that they don't come in any kind of legal thing, so in other words, EUA is something that FDA takes the risk and says, okay, you start with these, and then if there is good enough data from that, we use those pharmacovigilance data to go and inoculate more. So it was all done right. Government was helping, and everything else came together, and in February, February of 2021, the vaccine was launched.
Yeah. And so a lot of misinformation came out from it. A lot of confusion came from it. A lot of politicization of the whole concept. Here you have a company that they're trying to hit a moonshot, right? It's never been done before that fast.
Yeah.
They have to look at legal protection because they're trying to do something amazing to help with the issue. They also look like a bad guy in some circles because people think it's all about the money for them.
Yeah.
Then you have them trying to protect themselves legally because they're trying to pull this off. And then people are like, well, I'm fine with that, except for the fact that if it happens to me or my family, that something happens, I should have some kind of protection. Then you have mandates, and people are being forced, or not forced, but led into getting vaccines to participate in a certain employment, but then they can't sue anybody, or there's no accountability if something goes wrong. So there's all kinds of dilemma with it. And I don't know that there's never an answer for everything, but I think that, man, I don't know. What are your thoughts on all that, the convolution of everything?
No, I think it, in my opinion, it was politicized too much at some points, and then there should be obviously no mandate. I mean, vaccine mandate should not be there because some people cannot take it. Some immunocompromised patients will have some reaction to it, and will have some side effects to it. I mean, those always happen, but percentage being low, I look at those people as exception to the rule than the rule. So we are looking at the rest of the 95% of the population who can take the vaccine and will have none of the severe side effects. I mean, there may be some fever and all that, which will go away in 2-3 days, but at least
normal stuff,
normal side effects, and then at least you are going to avoid the hospitalization, which happens later on. I mean, for those people who didn't have vaccine and got sick, they had to go to the hospital, and many people, in certain age group, higher age group, essentially ended up dying. So you are trying to avoid those scenarios with vaccines. So it was all about, this goodwill, saying, hey, take the vaccine, it's free of charge, it's not going to cause you any harm. And but certain, again, there are, I don't want to name, but certain factions just don't want to take it. And for example, Djokovic, he doesn't want to take any vaccine, and that's okay as long as you are okay with that, and you want to live with that. That's okay. So there should not be any compulsion or mandatory thing about vaccine, so you have to go by what personal belief might be. It could be religious belief, it could be any other belief, but there should not be any mandate. And I think it was politicized too much in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'll share my thoughts on it, as far as, not that it matters, but because I'm not the most educated person on the topic, but I was just concerned with it, the rush of it. And I know anything in a rush, there could be things to go wrong. So I'm a fairly healthy individual. And I figured, you know what, let me just see how this goes first. And I chose to take that route. I don't know if that was the right answer or not. I don't know. And I'm not looking for you to say yes or no, but I just wasn't sure. And that's on me to do my research and do more to feel right. And so that's just, I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any means. I don't, I encourage people to do what's best for them, what they think's best for them. I just wasn't sure. And when I wasn't sure, I decided not to at that time.
But then you took later on?
No, I didn't take it at all, because I wasn't sure how long. Here's a question then. With a vaccine, how long after you get a vaccine or a booster or what have you, can you see side effects?
I mean, I'm going to generalize this. I mean, there could be exceptions to the rule that I'm talking about, but I think, most of the side effects disappear within 3 to 4 days. And some people may experience more, and I have some people calling me on that and all that. But again, I'm not sure whether it is purely due to the vaccine or some comorbidities that may be
Yeah.
there already, that interact. I mean, there is still effect of the vaccine that is there, but it's not because of the vaccine. It, mitigated into that. So in
Yeah,
other
makes
words,
sense.
you cannot blame just one thing. You have some other underlying conditions,
Yeah.
which again, you only know, and you can decide not to take the vaccine because that's your prerogative, and nobody can say, you must. So in my opinion, I think, some people decided not to, and that's fine as long as you're ready to, stay with your notion until the end of endemic. Pandemic
Correct.
is gone, but
Yeah.
endemic has to end somewhere, right? So
Yeah. Correct. So, and then how does the big pharmacy companies, how do they overcome the lack of trust some people have and the politicization of it? Like, what do they do about that? Is it?
no, companies really don't promote their vaccines. I mean, as you know, you probably have never seen any TV commercials from Pfizer or Moderna saying take our vaccine. I mean, that's a no-no. So it's all about, the governments and the people who are what I call the CDC and the public health folks. They are the ones who recommend or say, for your own benefit, take it. And that's the only thing they can say. They cannot say you must take it. And there are exceptions to the rule, as you know yourself. So with that, I think, everybody has to believe, hey, when you were born, you got some vaccinations and that was good for you, right? So if answer is good, then I say, why not? Unless you had some other example that you took some vaccine and you had some very bad reaction or something, so
Right.
that's based on everybody's belief.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Well, look, I want to thank you for coming on today, Dr. Mack, and I'm hoping to see you in a couple weeks out at San Diego. And, I want to thank you for all the work that you've put in and the dedication. Obviously, the amount of years that you've put in shows the dedication, because I know it wasn't always easy. And there was a lot of challenges that you had to overcome as you were going through it. And then there were some wins. And but I just want to thank you for your dedication and commitment to making the world the best place as possible.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And you rock, and you really do well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Mack. You guys have been listening to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, the unstoppable Mike C-Roc, and Dr. Mack, my buddy. Guys, keep coming back, keep subscribing, keep supporting, because we appreciate you. And if you like to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, we're on all of them. And if you want to watch these, we're on YouTube at Mike C-Roc, Ciorrocco. Go check it out. You can watch these episodes. Until next time, be unstoppable.